Alrighty, guys, welcome back to Hitting for the Cycle on the Empty the Bench podcast network. We are at episode numero dos. I am Hank Indictor, and with me, as always, is John Czech. John, how's it going?
Hank, it was so fun the first time. They let us doing it a second time. Can't wait, brother.
Yeah, no, I'm so excited too. But in any event, please don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at HFTCETB. Follow the Empty the Bench podcast network at ETB Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. You can find a lot of great content there. Check out the 3&D, check out Fruity Cereal, and of course, check out the namesake of the network and more. And of course, please follow our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network. And as I said, you can find a lot of the shows that I just mentioned. And last but not least, make sure you follow the website, etbpodcast.com, for great blogs and more informations as well. And funny, speaking of great blogs, not to pat myself in the back, but I actually just posted a blog about this earlier in the day. But John, without further ado, I think we ought to talk about the All-Star game. And if I'm being real, this All-Star week was kind of mid, if I'm being polite about it, because, look, the game dragged on. The home run derby was exciting, but other than maybe the pinch hit home run and Craig Kimbrell's epic ninth inning, what were the really big moments that stood out to you?
I think the only thing exciting was early on in the game when the Sunfield was in right field and like Adolis Garcia and Randy Arozarena had to keep making like weird catches that shouldn't have been that hard because of the shadows or the sun was in their eyes. That was really about it. We were doing that live stream for this and we were like 2.5 hours in, and our third friend Nick, who was on it with us, we were all just dying for the stream to be over, and we could not wait for that All-Star game to end. It was so boring. There was nothing really exciting about it. Can you even think of one spot that was exciting?
Yeah, not really. I think the problem with the game for me was it was as entertaining to watch for the most part as paint dry. Like, this game legitimately is one of the reasons why you and I are essentially and many people too are in favor of a pitch clock.
Oh, 100%. Before we were starting the stream and we were wondering if there was even going to be a pitch clock on it, I was sitting there praying. I'm like, I hope there's a pitch clock on it, because now, I don't understand the MLB, why they didn't do it. How many commercials have you saw coming into this season where they got talking about the shift, talking about the pitch clock, and how these were tried and tested in the minor leagues, and all the fans are asking for it? Okay, if all the fans are asking for it, and it's tried and tested in the minor leagues, and you were implemented this season, why the hell are you not put it in the All-Star game? If it's been asked for and everything else. And I can tell you why it wasn't put in the All-Star game, because of freaking money and commercial breaks. That's the reason why it wasn't put in the All-Star game. But it absolutely has to. If anyone was not a proponent of having a pitch clock at the start of this year, because I don't know how many people, messages and tweets that you read that are no longer a baseball fan because baseball is always sport. It's not supposed to be timed. And now you see it without a timer. Holy crap, Hank. It was a snore fest.
Yeah, no. John, it got so boring that you and I were pretty much comparing each other's immaculate grid during the game, and I think even our immaculate grid contest was more exciting than the freaking All-Star game.
Oh, it wasn't even close, because at least when we were playing immaculate grid and we're talking about like the most irrelevant players, and that was more fun than watching these guys attempt to catch fly balls in right field, and that was like the only excitement that there was the entire game. Offense was absolutely horrible. The pace that the pitchers pitch without that pitch clock is just it's insanity, just straight up insanity. And if the MLB thinks it's a good idea to not keep the pitch clock that the fans quote unquote asked for, and they're not going to do it in the playoffs, can you imagine watching these games that are 2.5 hours long now? I think the average time is 2 hours and 27 minutes. to now they're going to probably jump up to 3.5. Can you imagine what that's going to be like on boring games like the All-Star game was? I don't know what the MLB is thinking, but absolutely next year they have to put that pitch clock in.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me segue this to some of the things that I kind of discussed in my blog. I think putting the pitch clock in, that was the second thing that I mentioned in the blog. I'm going to get to number one very, very shortly because that was, you and I had a lot of problems with that there, and I know we discussed it on Facebook. But another thing, I don't know about you, but remember that phrase that we heard during, I think it was 2003 or 2004-ish, this time it counts?
Yep, after the tie.
Yeah, I kind of missed that, if I'm being honest with you.
I disagree.
Really?
Because the All-Star game shouldn't mean anything. The All-Star game should be a celebration of talent, of the best players coming together to celebrate a season where you're going to be able to be seen by the national media. You're going to have the most spotlight on you that you're probably going to have if you play for someone like a Milwaukee or Oakland. It should be a celebration of talent and letting everyone see you that doesn't get to see you because of time zone differences and market size differentiations and whatnot. So I don't think it should count because that screws the team that has a better record than the other team. I think if you, in the playoffs, it solely matters about your performance and your overall record versus, what guy in the Oakland A's didn't get a hit with the bases loaded in the fifth inning that ended up costing you the game.
Yeah, that's fair. And to be honest with you, I see it both ways, but at the end of the day, I don't know. Maybe it's just the part of me that likes to have a meaningful side of it, you know what I'm saying? Or something like having that aspect where a random guy could implement the team's World Series chances. Or maybe it's just the fact that I don't really like that it's such a glorified spring training game, but again, it's not like you have a bad take. I see both sides of it. This complaint that I have is minor compared to everything else that I'm going to be talking about. And can I just say, thank God we have yet to see that stupid home run derby format in terms of extra innings in the All-Star game. So far, it hasn't seen the light of day, and I put that at the bottom of my article. Let's keep it that way and just get it to the regular extra inning. I mean, here's my thing about it. The home run derby itself is an event already. And it's like the opening act before you get to the main event, which is the All-Star game. And if I'm being honest, I actually enjoyed this year's home run derby. I know that people have their complaints about the timed the pitch, the clock format as opposed to what it was in years past. But all in all, I thought it was pretty exciting. Got some good rounds from Julio Rodriguez and Randy Arozarena, and definitely good theater. And to expand on that and get back to why I don't like that as extra innings. It's like you're basically putting in too much of a good thing. Like, if I eat too much chocolates, I'm going to get sick. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you'd have to eat a lot of chocolate to get sick, but but you know something? Going down wouldn't be the worst thing. You definitely enjoy it going down. You just would regret it the day after. So, but I get what you're saying. I mean, it is kind of gimmicky, but I think when, they finally removed the "this one counts" mantra off of it, and they're trying to attract, younger viewers, I think they're almost trying to steal from the NHL with the shootouts kind of thing, and they're trying to think about, hey, we've actually run out of pitchers in this game before, and pitch limits and inning limits are so huge in modern day baseball that what's the best way we could possibly end this without going, hey, it's a tie, and the old mantra, tying is like kissing your sister. So, I mean, it's not the funnest way. But one thing that I will say is with the Manfred rules, with that runner on second base, games have not really been lasting that long with the runner on second base at all. So I think with the Manfred rules versus a traditional style thing where you got to score when the base is empty, it might not go as long as they think, with the Manfred rules. But who knows if we'll ever see this? I don't have the statistics right in front of me of how many All-Star games have actually gone into extra innings. I don't think it's been that many because usually they're over in 9. But I don't know. I guess I think my only thing for you, Hank, would be let's wait to see how it feels when a game's been decided by it versus assuming that it's going to suck.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Again, I could probably be wrong on this, like one way or another. And if, let's say, we do get to a home run derby, maybe exactly a year from now or a year or two from now, my blog might age like milk. But if that's the case, then I will gladly own up to admit that I'm wrong, because that's the type of person I am. And I've admitted times when I've wrong when the Yankees made a trade, like cough, cough, the Josh Johnson trade. But that's discussion for another day. But
right, though. So you got a 50-50 shot. It could suck.
I mean, yeah, it could be anything. It could even be a mystery box. But yeah, no. And I think, speaking of a controversy, here's one thing that you and I both completely agree with. Those jerseys.
Oh my God.
What an eyesore. Like,
Go ahead.
Like, first of all, how am I supposed to know that the hero of the game, the MVP, represented the Colorado Rockies when you can barely see his team logo and he's practically camouflaged with all his other teammates? Like, those uniforms were legit some of the worst things I have ever seen.
Oh, they were abysmal. I made a joke on the stream that they look like a bunch of Skull cans, like tobacco dip.
Oh, ew.
Yeah, they looked horrible. It was the most high school E-League rec softball kind of thing that they were sponsored by anyone that would sponsor them, and you could barely tell like what team was what, and then like the team's logo was so dark on the sleeves you couldn't even tell what team that they played for. And I think the worst part about those jerseys is someone had posted a picture on Twitter of what those jerseys cost at the stadium. $490. They expected someone to cough up 5 Benjamin Franklins for one of those ugly ass Winter Fresh Skull can looking jerseys. I want to know, why can't teams have their jerseys back in the game again? It used to be forever. There was a special home run jersey, the home run derby jersey, where like they wore it during the thing, and then during the game they wore their team's jerseys. Why can't they go back again? If it's all about jersey sales and it's all about trying to make a special jersey for a special thing, let them wear it during batting practice and during the media sessions and during the home run derby, but let them wear their team's jersey during the actual freaking game. Can you imagine the 71 All-Star game where there was the most Hall of Famers of all time, Willie Mays and Roberto Clemente wearing those jerseys?
Well, actually, it's funny you should mention that, because I saw our friend Gershon tweet this, and he mentioned the top 6 hitters for the NL: Willie Mays, Hank Aaron, Joe Torre, Willie Stargell, Willie Mack, and Johnny Bench. 6 Hall of Famers, 8 MVPs. That's Avenger stuff right there. I mean,
yeah.
Not to mention, look at the header that I made for the blog that I just posted. You had, and I have I'm going to name the exact order: Tony Gwynn, Mark McGwire, Barry Bonds, Chipper Jones, Mike Piazza, and Larry Walker. Like, if you're a true baseball fan and looking at that picture doesn't give you the chills,
oh man,
then I don't know what does. And not to mention, if you're a pitcher looking at that, you've got to be shitting your pants, if I must say
unless
so.
Unless you're Pedro 99.
Yes, unless you're Pedro 99. That's a good point.
Yeah, but I just don't get it, and you and I both know what it is. It's solely for the money. They want to sell hats. They want to sell massively overpriced jerseys. I don't think, I don't know how many people you saw tweet about how bad the jerseys were, and if you saw the polls, like it was like literally like the ratio was like 88-12 for people who thinks if they should wear jerseys or not. And almost all these polls I saw. I don't know if the MLB actually cares, because they're going to put out, things saying that with increased fan demand for these stupid jerseys, we're going to continue on with this, and they're going to rip away a tradition that I don't think they should rip away. You know, it's bad enough that now, like, the Yankee jersey that's classic as classic can be. This is coming as a Tiger. It's going to have an advertising sign on it now, like a billboard. So now they can't even wear their own team's jersey in the All-Star game. I don't know, man. Like, how much is enough? I don't know.
And you wonder why there are people who are just randomly and slowly not wanting to watch this game anymore because of some of this bullshit that's going on with the advertising and whatnot. And trust me, there's a lot more that I could say about the way the game markets itself. And I kind of sort of took a shot at him in this article based on the fact that the game itself really hasn't been marketed as well in years past. But now you're trying to market it by putting in these eyesores.
Yeah.
Do I even have to say it? And I hope the banner's ready. Good old Rob Manfred.
Oh, God. Your best friend.
Yeah, John, you knew that was coming out of me. I don't say I didn't warn you.
Yeah, you and Rob Manfred are like oil and water. You guys are just go together so great. It was funny when he was at that All-Star game and he was answering questions about relocation and everything else, and the guy just gives the most half-assed, like, you could just tell he's such a puppet to the owners. Like, he doesn't care about the fans. He's a puppet to the owners. He doesn't even try to, like, disguise the fact of it. I think some of the things he's doing is good, but I don't know, man. It's just so about the money and with him, and it's so blatantly about the money that it's almost like you feel dirty supporting it.
I mean, seriously, a politician can get away with more lies than Rob Manfred. That's how terrible it is.
Yeah, it's absolutely pathetic.
Or I should say he makes politicians seem like decent people, which, yeah, how hard that is to do.
Maybe he golfs with them. That's why he was practicing his golf swing during the lockout.
But yeah, I'm gonna pop a blood vessel if I keep talking about corporate stuff, business, the MLB, Rob Manfred, and those horrid jerseys, and the fact that All-Star game was just kind of mid, so to speak. So, you know what? Let's fan the flames by talking about some trade rumors. And right now, I am hearing a lot of rumors that Shohei Ohtani is being linked to the Yankees. And when I saw this rumor go off while I was at work, the first thoughts coming out of my head were, why? How is this exactly going to help the Yankees? John, I said this last week about the Yankees and their hopes. Right now, as we speak, the Yankees are like on thin ice if we're talking about that last wild card spot. And they're kind of in that cluster with the Blue Jays for third and fourth place. And somehow I'm hearing this crazy idea that somehow Shohei Ohtani is going to put on a Superman cape, fly to the Bronx, and all of a sudden things are just going to be fine and dandy because here he comes to save the day. The only the best pitcher hybrid. Oh, I can't even talk right now. The best pitcher hitter hybrid that we have seen since some guy named George Herman Ruth, you've probably heard of him, comes to the Yankees, saves their season, and leads them to glory. Except there's something that we're kind of forgetting about this. Number one, you have another superstar on this team. You may have heard of him. His name is Aaron Judge. No big deal. The guy only hit 62 home runs a year ago. And he's not exactly playing right now because of the injury. And, yeah, the offense. Not good. If I'm going to be calling the Yankees offense mid, I think that's being too kind.
Hashtag warning track home runs.
Yeah, exactly. And So we're just going to assume that Shohei Ohtani coming to the Yankees is all of a sudden going to just make things better, right?
I don't understand why a team that's 8 games out of it, a team that when they don't have their best superstar, they're one of the worst offenses in baseball, a team that really isn't surrounded by that great a depth of talent, that will go out and leverage their future to try to get one guy, a singular person. And a point I want to make to Yankee fans that are going and they're losing their shit over this, guys, Aaron Judge is a great player, but Aaron Judge ain't playing, and Aaron Judge, there's no timeline on him. Shohei Ohtani has played with Mike Trout his entire career. Another generational superstar. Hank, how many playoff wins does he have with Mike Trout?
He hasn't even. How many playoff wins does he have?
Yes.
John, I don't think he's even made the playoffs with Mike Trout.
Exactly. Bingo. Ding, ding, ding. Get the man a prize. So you're willing to leverage your future because if you're Perry Manasian and you answer that phone and Brian Cashman's on the other side and he goes, "Hey, what's going on, Perry? Good weather we're having here today. Hey, how about that Shohei guy? You don't need him for the playoffs. What's it going to take?" He's going to go, "Well, how good do you feel about Jason Dominguez? And how's Spencer Jones doing?" And he's going to go, "What?" And he's going to go, "Well, you guys already had this guy named Babe Ruth, and we have him now. So Babe Ruth don't come cheap. Are you really going to leverage your entire future to get one more superstar to essentially replace Judge for the time being until Judge comes back when you don't know if Rondon's arm's going to fall off for the rest of the year? Because he just came back, but you can't trust him yet. Luis Severino is a walking IL stint. Garrett Cole can only carry your pitching staff so far. And what are you going to do with all these other dead roster spots? You literally have a team that was so inept offensively. Brian Cashman fired a hitting coach in midseason for the first time ever. Ever. And you're going to leverage your future to bring a superstar over who's one of the greatest, probably the greatest baseball player we ever saw, to try to carry your team when he played with Mike Trout and they couldn't make the playoffs once in the AL West. I don't get it, Hank. Maybe you can shine some light.
Oh, well, I'll tell you why the Yankees might even consider this. Remember those tender buckets and all that overpriced fuel? Yeah, we got to get those fans into the seats. We got to get that playoff revenue. It's all about the money. Yeah, no. Get the fuck out of here with that stuff. No, if the Yankees bring up the farm, get rid of the farm for Shohei Ohtani, only to barely even make the playoffs as a wild card and not even get a home game or miss the playoffs entirely.
That's bad. Not only if they miss the playoffs with him, you not only just tried to win now for 1 year, you are screwed for the next 5. If you trade away the prospects, you're going to have to trade to get Shohei Ohtani. So you better enjoy this one. If they were to do that, you better enjoy this singular playoff run, because if you don't re-sign him, that may be your last. And I think, honestly, that's the kind of move that would finally get Brian Cashman fired. No doubt.
And John, we have to ask ourselves this too. Are we even sure that Shohei Ohtani even wants to play in New York long term? Do you remember when the whole free agent process happened in the winter of 2017 to 18, and he said to the media, "I don't want to play for a big market team like New York"? What makes you think he's just going to magically change his mind and say, "Oh, I love it here. I'm going to play for the Yankees"?
Well, you might go to your crosstown rival in the Mets, though, because Cohen, let's play fantasy then. Say the Yankees get him, right?
Mm-hmm.
He plays 2 months there. He gets a sense of an idea what the New York life is like. He gets a sense of idea what the media pressure is like. Say he's feels like he can tolerate it. Cohen has got all them billions of dollars in money. He might just jump ship and go to Steve Cohen because he's like, well, Cashman is so, dead set on not exceeding the luxury tax, for very long. Because I think the Yankees, every single time they exceed it, they usually dump to get back under it to reset the tax threshold. he might just go over to the Mets. So not only did you trade to get him, and you don't win a World Series, he might go to the Mets and it look even stupider because he's in New York, but not on your team.
John, you know what all this talk reeks of?
Chicken buckets?
No, it would reek of Brian Cashman making a deal with the devil just so that he could keep his job, which, how many times have I said this? Yeah. He should have been fired after either the 2019 or 2020 season.
Yeah. You guys have not developed a farm system. Aaron Judge is like your last real impact prospect the Yankees have had. Gleyber Torres wasn't a Yankee. He was a Cub, so you can't even really count that. Some of his free agent signings and trades have made no sense. IKF anyone, Josh Donaldson anyone. The Anthony Rizzo trade was good, but, it's not really paying dividends this year.
Broken clock is worked twice a day.
How many more years can you build a team that's destined to get bounced in the first or second round and keep your job?
And not to mention, I was a 12, 13-year-old 7th grader who was going through puberty the last time my team even won a pennant. With that big of a payroll, how the hell do you expect me to defend a GM who's had all the resources in the world and all the means necessary to build the championship, and he's not, and they haven't even been there since 2009? Like, I'm going to hate myself for saying this, but we're pretty much entering Dallas Cowboys territory of, you just know it's a given that the Yankees are going to find a way to fall apart. You know what I mean?
I mean, the last time the Yankees won the World Series, someone could have very well recorded it on VHS tape. That's how long ago it was.
And a certain coach named Ben McAdoo would have been jealous of those tapes. But in any event, let's get to this Sean Casey hiring, because, John, I was talking to you a little bit about this through text beforehand, and am I necessarily against the idea of having Sean Casey as the hitting coach? I mean, not really. The guy had a solid major league career. He was a good hitter. I mean, we could make fun of the fact that he got thrown out on a ground ball single at first all we want, but still had a better career than probably so many people who even do make the major leagues at all. So got to give him that credit where credit is due. And he does know something about hitting. So, it might be a little bit of a breath of fresh air for a team that's, quite frankly, I would pretty much call them right now a rudderless ship, considering they're without Aaron Judge. So now you have him in there as the hitting coach. Here are my issues. Number one, this is a guy who doesn't really have coaching experience. All we've really seen from him was being on MLB Network. Number two, are we sure that him being friends with Aaron Boone had nothing to do with this at all?
Oh, everything to do with it.
And number three, can we be honest with ourselves? Was Dylan Lawson necessarily wrong to be fired? I don't really know, because at the end of the day, I'm not, as much as I love the Yankees, I'm not exactly a fly on the wall. I don't know what goes on every single day in the clubhouse. I don't know whether there was real tension or not. But at the same time, this reeks of him being a scapegoat. And if you really look at the Yankees and their approach to hitting, you can change the coach all you want, but the fact of the matter is, the whole philosophy stays the same. 1 through 9, there are a bunch of guys who are going to either hit a home run, walk, or strike out. A 3 true outcome lineup. And what's my line again? The Yankees are the literal definition of insanity. And how exactly is hiring Sean Casey just going to magically give John Giancarlo Stanton, Michael Jordan's secret stuff, and make him that home run hitter again that he was with the Miami Marlins. How exactly are we going to expect Anthony Rizzo to go back to being prime Anthony Rizzo and start hitting? How exactly are we going to assume that all these guys are going to drink that same Mike's secret stuff and they're going to be able to beat the Monstars like the Looney Tunes squad was? We don't know that. It's just a change for the sake of making change. And if we really need to be honest with ourselves, it was a scapegoat move. Cashman needs to look at not only his puppet, but he needs to look at himself in the mirror.
Well, you're absolutely right that he got hired because him and Aaron Boone were teammates, I believe, for 5 seasons. They're very good friends. Sean Casey on his podcast had even said the day that Aaron Boone got traded, he cried because of how close of friends they were.
Mm-hmm.
I think with Lawson's background, where he had never been a major league player and he was more about the analytics and more about the numbers versus rather than prior knowledge of being an everyday player. Sometimes I think players have a little bit of resentment and a little bit of a hard time listening to someone's word as gospel if it's more about numbers versus rather than actual results. Because, you can go on Sean Casey's baseball reference right now, and you can see he's got a couple hundred home runs, he's got a couple thousand hits, career 300 hitter, multiple time All-Star. So he's got a little bit of, something to back up what he says. Now, I think he could go one of two ways. And I think Casey is in a no-pressure environment because everyone knows that the Yankees lineup, like you said, is a very 3 true outcomes lineup. Everyone knows that this team has underperformed all year pretty much, especially without Aaron Judge. And everyone knows that this is, like you said, a scapegoat move. So it's kind of a no-pressure kind of thing, see what a different voice can do. But I think at this point in time, with the Yankees being so far out of first place and barely clinging on to even being a wild card team, and as inept as their offense been, a change had to be made. And he was the unfortunate scapegoat. But I will say, in defense of Sean Casey, he was a very good hitter, like I reiterated once already. And you get, I think, 2 things with Casey. 1, his knowledge of being an MLB player. 2, this guy is extremely positive. You're actually getting almost like a mental health performance coach. This guy is actually started his own business for being a mental health and a life performance coach. So you get that aspect of it too. On top of his MLB knowledge, he's an extremely likable guy. He's a guy that I think is going to go in the clubhouse and fit instantaneously because of the kind of guy he is, which, you kind of lighten the mood up on a damn situation. They might be more inclined to listen to him and maybe take some of the advice that he has. But let's get one thing straight. The Tigers, they fired Scott Kubal last year because their offense was their shittiest offense they had since the turn of the century. Guess what? They got 3 hitting coaches this year, and their offense still sucks ass. Sean Casey ain't going to go in there and go bippity boppity boo, you can hit a fastball, dude. And then all of a sudden, they're going to be good. But at least this is a face, and I think he brings the mental performance aspect of it and his knowledge. So it could definitely do, I think, more positives than worse.
Right. And again, I don't really entirely disagree with that. I think he probably could help this team to a certain extent, but let me just bring up the facts. Without Aaron Judge, I think it was Bad Dog. I can't remember which YouTuber I watched offhand said this during his Yankee rant, but he said that this Yankees team not only was poor with batting average, but this was probably the worst on-base percentage in team history since the 1968 Yankees. And to put things in perspective, this was a team whose best player was an aging Mickey Mantle who could no longer play center field anymore because his knees were finally shot to the point where he probably should have been a DH if such a thing had existed. And, oh yeah, that's right. I mentioned there was no DH. A pitcher was batting in that lineup. This team just doesn't even have its star player. And this team, unlike the 68 team, has a DH.
Yeah.
That's bad.
An expensive one.
Yeah. An expensive one who, what's that Dire Straits song? Money for nothing and your chicks for free.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if striking out was if you got an award for striking out, he would be the MVP every year. That's for sure.
John,
Maybe about Barry Bonds in. Barry Bonds helped him a lot in Miami.
he's our version of Dave Kingman, a guy who can hit a lot of home runs, and when he hits home runs, it goes way out of there, or he strikes out. Although, in fairness, Giancarlo Stanton, I'm pretty sure, is much nicer than Dave Kingman, because from all the stories I've heard, Dave Kingman was an absolute prick. But I'm sure if we watched him if we were around in the 70s to watch Dave Kingman, we probably would have enjoyed his long home runs. But yeah.
100%.
Anyways, let's talk about your Detroit Tigers. And I know you've done a few videos about them on your own YouTube channel, but it's been an interesting week in Tiger baseball. You had a combined no-hitter, and you guys took Max Clark with the number 3 spot. Take me through your thoughts as to what was going on when the Tigers took Clark.
So, a lot of people were expecting the Tigers to get Dylan Cruz. Going to fall to 3, and they thought Wyatt Langford was going to go 2. There was not like a real definitive order, though. I had actually heard like stuff on other podcasts, like some people from Perfect Game. They actually thought that Max Clark was going to go 1-1 because the Pirates were going to try to go under slot and be cheap with the first overall pick. And they thought maybe Wyatt Langford or Cruz was going to end up at 3, and Skeens was going to go 2 because the Nationals like their big power pitchers and whatnot like that. So after Skeens goes and then Cruz goes, everyone's like, "Well, done deal. This is it. Wyatt Langford, you might as well get ready to wear a Tigers jersey." And then the pick of Max Clark came in. Now, everyone was kind of like shitting a brick because Wyatt Langford, this guy had almost as many walks as strikeouts, 21 home runs. His OPS was like 1,300 this past year. Absolutely could rake. And Max Clark is a guy that his power tool really hasn't shown yet. He is a prep hitter straight out of high school. He's very young. Everyone's like, well, now the rebuild's going to last forever because you're getting a hitter that is in high school. He's going to be 5 years away versus a guy that was going to come up and basically help you in a year and a half. And I'm like, hold up. Wait a second. First off, the draft is a crapshoot. Let's get this set in stone. It don't matter who's 1-1. It don't matter if you're 5th round, 80th pick. You are essentially purchasing a lottery ticket at an opportunity to develop someone to be a superstar or help you contribute to your team. So draft slot, draft position, who is what, doesn't mean jack shit. Secondly, I was familiar with Max Clark because I had saw some videos on him like 2 months ago, right at the back end of his high school season. Some of his interviews and just they were following him around for a week. It's a great video. And I'm like, wow, this kid is put together. This kid's mindset's great. He is extremely about getting better. His work ethic is off the charts. This year in high school, he had almost an 800 on-base percentage. Hank, he had more walks than hits because teams wouldn't pitch to him. He had, I think, a 741 on base. He hit over 600. The only thing that they don't know is if he's going to grow into his power. But he's only 18. He's kind of lanky. He's really fast. He's got a good arm at center. He's a good defender. So you could see why they took Wyatt Langford. And other people, you need to realize this too. With I was saying, well, there's the time difference between a college and a prep guy. The Tigers have 2 hitters. Riley Green was a college or high school bat. Riley Green played less than 250 games in the minor leagues, and he's up in Detroit right now raking. We have another hitter in our system who's our number 1 prospect. His name is Colt Keith. He is going to play under 250 games in the minor leagues before he makes it up to the big leagues. If hitters can hit and they can advance through the system while progressing at each level, while getting better to continue to bolster their skill sets, it does not matter if they're high school. It does not matter if they're a collegiate pitcher. Hitters hit, you get to the big leagues. If you can play, you get to the big leagues. It doesn't matter where you get drafted from. Bryce Harper and Mike Trout got there before they were 20. So, and I'm not trying to say Max Clark is those guys, but I know it was just driving me insane. So when Clark fell to 3 and they didn't take Wyatt Langford, I didn't really care because I almost went to Franklin, Indiana, because Franklin, Indiana is only an hour and a half away from my house here in Ohio, just to go see him play because I was so impressed by that video when they watched him for a week. So I was extremely happy about that. I think he's a great addition to a team that has a farm system in the lower half of the league now because all the big prospects have now graduated. And I think he's the guy that it's not going to be a 5-year thing. I think 2.5 at most, and he could be up in the big leagues. And then for the combined no-hitter, I mean, yeah, it was cool, but, you and I are both purists, and we both look at combined no-hitters like, yeah, I mean, it's fine, I guess, but it's not like the guy went out there and, he shut down an opposing team for 9 innings by himself and threw like 125 pitches. But I will say the cool thing about that combined no-hitter is Matt Manning was pitching with back spasms for the last 2 innings of that start and managed to almost go 7 innings before walking his final hitter. So that is a gritty performance by him to do that. And it's his best performance ever as a Tiger. And, as a team that's been depleted with injuries as much as they have and really needs starting pitching depth, it's a hell of a thing to see a guy that has been hurt more times than he's been on the mound come out and have that kind of performance.
Yeah, no, I think that was definitely pretty cool. It's probably going to be I feel like it's probably going to be in your top 10 highlights of the season when you do that video on your YouTube channel. And yeah, no, I generally am not the biggest fan of combined no-hitters. Like, I think it's cool. Like, I'm not going to discount them, but like at the same time, it just doesn't hit the same when the starter gets taken out in the middle of a really good performance. And generally speaking, I'm one of those types of fans that I like to see a pitcher go through as long as he can before, he shows signs of being tired or exhausted and whatnot. So, yeah, I think I tend to agree with you. But as far as Max Clark goes, obviously I got to take a look at more clips of him. But from what I understand, it sounds like the Tigers pretty much picked up a guy who has a lot of potential. And, let's face it, for a team that's pretty much been on a severe decline ever since I want to say Miguel Cabrera really started getting injured and was never really the same. I think the Tigers really need that guy who can give you guys a glimmer of hope and Max Clark apparently seems like the real deal now. Is he like a 5-tool player or something?
Yes. The only thing that they are unsure of is if you look at all of his skills on the 2080 scale, almost is a 60 or a 70. His hit is a 60. His speed is a 70. His arm is a 60. The only thing that they're unsure of, and his power is a 50. So they only have him as average power. They think the floor on him is a 15 to 20 home run guy because he's got enough bat speed and strength to at least hit that many out. But they think the ceiling on him could be a 30 home run guy if he continues to grow into his body because he has the frame to do it. And he even admitted in interviews himself, they're like, what's one thing that, you think you hope to get better on? And he said, my power really hasn't been there yet, but it's going to come. And he's only 18. I mean, go look at a picture of Mike Trout when he was 18 and look at it now. I mean, everyone would be like, oh, he's on steroids. It's called, no, you're naturally growing into your body as an adult male, everyone does. So some more than others, like me, I way overgrew my body, so I'm so fat. But anyways, so Max Clark, it was a great pick, and the Tigers, for as bad as they've been, this first year with Scott Harris, you can definitely see basically all the incompetence of Al Avila is a little more glaring because you look at 7 drafts of prior regime. And, Casey Mize has had Tommy John surgery. Like I said about Matt Manning, he's been more hurt than anything. Now, Taylor Skubal wasn't a first-round pick. I think he was actually like a 6th or 7th-round pick. And he's been like their frontline guy, and they just got him back. But, Torkelson was a 1-1. This year, he's finally starting to look like a guy that could live up to some of his potential. Riley Green was a 1-5. He's blossoming into a superstar. But there's a lot of guys in that system that, now that Scott Harris is actually, starting to put some talent in place, like getting guys like Zach McKinstry and Ibanez an opportunity, and they've come up. And Matt Vierling's been really good. He was a part of that Soto trade. But you see some of these guys like Parker Meadows, he took a huge step forward last year. Came up this year, he was really hot. I thought he should have made the team out of spring because he almost had 10 home runs in spring training. Absolutely murdered the ball. But he's been down there in Toledo the whole year. He got cold, but in the month of June, he's been ripping it up. And then they went and got Justin Henry Malloy from the Braves for Joe Jimenez. So they have some talent. They have some guys up in the that are about to be on the precipice of the big league that are really going to help. And then you look at someone like Kerry Carpenter. This is a guy that was a non-prospect, mid-20s, all of a sudden hits 30 home runs out of nowhere last year in the minor leagues. Comes up to the big leagues, and now he's almost leading their team in home runs. He's got almost a 500 slugging percentage, almost an 800 OPS. He's been really good. So as talent depleted and as bad as this team's been, because of the prior regimes, you can start to see the bones of the next good Tiger core coming to fruition, and I hope so. But you as a Yankee fan, just keep the name Colt Keith in the back of your head because he is coming, and this kid can hit absolutely flat out. Rake. The only thing that is keeping him from the big leagues right now is the fact that he just got promoted to AAA a couple weeks ago. By the way, hitting over 440 and hit 2 home runs in his first 2 games in Toledo. Yeah, so he's destroying AAA. The only thing that's keeping him from coming up to the big leagues right away and skipping AAA is his defense. Solely that, because he's not the defender at third. And then Justin Henry Malloy, this is the guy last year, had almost a 400 on base, had almost as many walks as strikeouts, hit 20 home runs. He's already got 16 this year. Parker Meadows has got almost 20 home runs. So they got some guys down there, man. And Parker Meadows is Austin Meadows' little brother. So we'll finally have a Meadows in Detroit that actually plays. So that'll be sick.
Yeah, no, it seems to me like Harris is really doing a good job at really restoring the culture. Obviously, it was never going to happen right away in year one, but as they often say, Rome really isn't built in a day, and I think you guys seem to be headed in a good direction. Now, let's obviously get to the last segment before we got to wrap things up, and as usual, time flies on this show, but in any event, we got to talk about our biggest post All-Star break series. One of the things that I often look forward to after the All-Star breaks is there's always at least a few series to me that get a good amount of storylines, because that's when we really head into the home stretch. And I'm going to start with this one. The first series that I'm really looking forward to here is the Orioles against the Marlins. Now, this one I really like for a few reasons. Number one, this features 2 teams that have pretty much been big surprises this year, and it'll be interesting to see how these 2 teams do going forward in the second half. And with the Marlins, you of course have Luis Ariz having that watch with his batting average. I don't know that he's going to get to 400, but he's been a big story all year long, and the Marlins are a team that could probably make noise in the second half too with that pitching staff. And then of course, you got the Orioles and Adley Rutschman, and that could be a key series for them. And I think you and I both agree that's a team that's going to end up buying at the deadline.
I said they were winning the East, so hell yeah, they're going to buy.
Oh, yeah. Buy, and it ain't no lie.
That's like the first time in forever that you could say the Marlins are a must-watch series to come out of the break for. Like, that just
right?
doesn't the job Kim Ang has done this year, team they put together. I only think that's disappointing for them is Yuri Perez. They sent him to the minor leagues because of his innings. So it's like, why? You finally have a team that's finally good and finally winning. And I mean, they're not going to win the East, obviously, because the Braves are just a jug. But why would you send down a guy that's pitching as well as him? When you have all this forward momentum. So I don't know, but that's a good series. It's a good pick.
Yeah, and another one I have before I turn it over to you for your series to watch. I have to go with the Mets against the Dodgers, and the reason I'm going to go with that series is because number one, the Mets right now at this point are 6 games under 500. I think this is a series that will determine whether or not they still may have any bit of hope in competing for a wild card. But of course, you also have the Dodgers, who are locked in a tight 3-way division race between them, the Diamondbacks, and the Giants. And so this could be a series that gets them right back in it. They could probably catapult right into first place, depending on how the Diamondbacks and the Giants do this weekend. I think the Giants are in Pittsburgh, whereas the Diamondbacks are... Oh, they're playing the Blue Jays. That's right.
Well, first off, Hank, thank you for taking my pick, you jerk. That was going to be... You're over here. You were just waiting. Like, I'm going to screw him over and take his pick. So he has the last-minute audible. Well, guess what? You're dealing with Peyton Manning. So Omaha, I got another series to pick.
Go for it.
So I do agree wholeheartedly, though, that was the reason why I was going to take the Dodgers Mets, because like this series could legitimately sink the Mets to the points where they're going to trade. So hey, how ironic would it be if the Dodgers retraded for Max Scherzer again for a playoff push? That would be really from the Mets. So I'm actually going to go with that series, Arizona and Toronto, because Arizona has to fight off the Dodgers, who are making a hard push, and Toronto is another one of those, as your favorite word, mid teams that have not really, done what they said they were going to do and be a movie and all this bullshit that's never come to fruition. And the other bird in the division is currently almost leading it in the Orioles. So I'm going to go with Arizona and Toronto as my first one, because it's an important series for both. Arizona needs to fend off the Dodgers, needs to keep winning, and Toronto can't sink. So they got to do that one. And I'm actually going to go two more real quick. Houston and LA. Now, the Angels went from, I think they were like 8 or 9 games over 500 at one point in time before Mike Trout got hurt. And now they're 1 game under. Shohei comes out the break. Every single one of these starts, Shohei's out there pitching. It's just building his value. How's that fingernail doing? Is that blister gone? And every single one more of these games they lose is another nail in the coffin, sinking them to finally trading Shohei. So these are huge games right now for the Angels, because Artie Moreno, like Ken Rosenthal said, doesn't want to be the guy to trade Shohei Ohtani, which he really needs to be the guy to trade Shohei Ohtani, because they haven't made the playoffs in 10 years. So, and my last one I'm going to pick, I'm going to go Homer. I'm going to go the Tigers in Seattle. And for this reason, the Mariners have been very disappointing so far this year. Let's see where they're at in the standings. The Mariners are currently 45-44, 1 game over 500. Last time the Mariners played the Tigers, they destroyed them at Comerica Park. So this is a chance for them to gain some ground. And the reason why I'm going for the Tiger side of it is the Tigers finally released Jonathan Scope. They're coming out of the break completely healthy, ready to go. They literally got back every single person that was on the IL, and they're just counting off the days till some of these minor league reinforcements are going to come up and help them in the second half. And they're still less than 6 games out of first place, because that division is dog shit. So it's a chance for the Mariners to finally to gain some momentum, and they have to start hitting, because their time to be a wildcard team is really starting to soak up and go away. And the Tigers are going into this as healthy as they've been all year.
I'll give you a few more. I'm gonna go back to the NL West for a bit. I mentioned the Dodgers and the Mets. I'm gonna go with the Giants and the Pirates. The Pirates had a good start to the season, but then of course they kind of fell apart, and you're kind of seeing a bit of a fluke. But the Pirates seem to have a lot of young players with some potential. So I think the Pirates might be a chance for the Pirates to really be able to get back into it just a little bit. But then obviously we have to look at the Giants side. The Giants are a team that were a big surprise. And now with, given the fact that a lot of good players on that team got snubbed for the All-Star break, this is a chance for them to prove not only what they're worth, but this is also a chance for them to really keep pace within the NL West. So I think this really is intriguing right there. I got to go with the Brewers and the Reds, because the Reds right now are currently 1 game ahead of Milwaukee, and I think this will be the chance to see whether that Reds big winning streak was actually a fluke and whether the Brewers are a team that can win the division. But again, I'm not 100% sold on either team really. So that division's pretty much shit as well. And then, of course, let's go with the last series I really can think of is the Guardians-Rangers series, because it's a chance for Cleveland to really break away and separate themselves from, say, the Twins and the Tigers in the NL Central. And then, of course, with Texas, it's a chance for them to see if they can build off of that really strong start that they have. But they also got to keep a lookout for the Houston Astros, because right now the Astros are only 2 games behind them for first place. So that's got some good storylines right there. But again, this was yet another fun episode, John. Really appreciate you coming on as always.
I can't wait till next Thursday. Let's do it again, brother. Let's run it back.
Abso-friggin-lutely. But before we do any of that running back, of course, I got to take care of the typical housekeeping. Please don't forget to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at HFTC-ETB. You can follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network at ETB Network on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. We've got a lot of great content on there for you guys, so please check out a lot of the great shows that we have. And of course, don't forget to follow our YouTube channel at youtube.com/ETB Network. And please don't forget to hit that big red button down below. Give us a like and a comment, and let us know your thoughts. And of course, make sure you follow the website, etbpodcast.com. Yours truly may or may not have another blog up his sleeve. I don't know. We'll probably see if there's any news that calls for it. But you got great blogs, a lot of information as well. And that'll pretty much wrap it up for episode 2 of Hitting for the Cycle. For John Czech, I'm Hank Indictor, and we will see you guys next time.